And I remember talking to Jeff from Thursday about this. He's like, you have to always remember, like, Thursday got made fun of so much, and but you got to remember, as many haters as you have about 10 times more lovers. It's because that you're doing so well. These haters are just hating on you.
Welcome, everyone, to This Was the Scene, the podcast that takes a look back at the late 90s, early 2000 punk scene. I am your host, Mike Doyle. The Number 12 Looks Like You is an American mathcore band formed in Bergen County, New Jersey in 2002. The band went on a 6-year hiatus in 2010, and in May 2016 they performed a secret show and then announced their reunion. I don't think these guys are still together because Jesse didn't really talk about the fact that they were still together, but this is just what Wikipedia says. So Wikipedia, this is like where I get most of my information from for these intros. So it could be bullshit about them still playing because it doesn't sound like they are. But anyway. Typically, I like to stick with bands that started in the late 90s and then progressed into the early 2000s to go with the theme of this podcast. Why I think this band fits into this conversation is because they grew up in Jersey, and Jesse and I talk about that late 90s Jersey scene the whole time. And the focus of the conversation is on that scene where he grew up in. And I asked him questions like, did you go to shows? Where'd you go? What bands influenced you? So he goes off on these, going to Manville and all these other Legion Halls and Jersey shows, local Jersey shows back then. He talks about like the Saves the Day CD release party and all this stuff. That's why I think this conversation fits so well in this podcast. It's cool to get bands that are like later on, were established like in the early 2000s, a little bit later on. And the fact that they are a Jersey band in this podcast was focused on just the Jersey scene in the very beginning. To me, I was like, this makes sense, fuck it, and it was a great conversation, and I really hope that you enjoy it. So I got Jesse on the Skype, and this is what we talked about. Producing movies, Straight Edge, Warped Tour in 97, the Saves the Day CD release party at the Manville Elks Lodge, Shady View Terrace, Jeff from Thursday, how they were treated in New Jersey, the band Bad Rabbits, and a ton more. Go check out his Instagram. It's Jesse Korman with a K, Jesse, Korman. And you just search that on Instagram. He does a lot of cool stuff. He's a photographer for movie posters, and he's a producer in like the film industry. This guy just does like a shit ton of stuff. And he's really fucking nice. So go follow him. And yeah, before we begin, check out the animated short I have with Heath Saraceno's interview, which is episode 3. Heath's from Midtown, and he talks about the time that Midtown almost got carjacked while they were in France. It's on the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/thiswasthescene, and it's part of the series that I'm working on where I'm going to take clips from episodes and animate them. I'm working on the next one right now. It's storyboarded. I just haven't any time to get to it to animate it, but it will be out soon. Today's episode is sponsored by my webcomic, dailyBred, that's BRED. I've been drawing and posting a new comic on Instagram every day since November 11th, 2017, and you can find it by searching Your dailyBred, because dailyBred was taken, even though the person doesn't do shit with their account, but, fuck it, whatever. Right now, I'm working on my new book called The Couples Checklist, the book to see if you should keep dating each other. It's a checklist for couples to help them grow the relationship. It's also meant to show you if you should bail from the relationship you're in based on how much shit you don't know about each other or how much stuff you don't want to do together that's suggested in this book. I'm not a psychologist, but I just think this is a great way for couples to kind of learn a little bit more about each other and, kind of dig down a bit and say like, oh, I never knew you thought that or wanted to do that. And it's a mixture of sweet things you can do together as a couple and some like hardcore fucked up shit you can do as a couple, and I'm pretty excited to put that out, and I'll be announcing when that's released in one of these episodes. 3 ways you can support the podcast. 1, go to patreon.com/thiswasthescene and sign up for $1 a month. You can also increase that if you don't want to pay $1 and you want to pay way more. But I just have it as $1 a month just to be like, hey, I've been listening to episodes for X amount of time, and here's $1 every month that comes out of my account. If you don't want to pay $1 a month, you can do number 2, which is do a one-time donation, which is located at thiswasthescene.com. You can go there. It's a purple button on the top of the homepage. You can click on it. It leads to a PayPal button, and you can also Venmo. The Venmo is actually _Mike Doyle if you want to do that. And the third and last thing you could do is buy merch on thiswasthescene.com. All the proceeds help to go pay for the bills and the time it takes to do this shit. And last thing to do is check out the Jersey Interchange, which is a new collection of cover songs from the New Jersey punk, hardcore, and ska scenes, re-envisioned and performed by your favorite NJ musicians over 20 years later. You can check it out by going to facebook.com/Jersey Interchange. It's fucking awesome, and Christian, who's running it with Joe Polito, they're like collaborating here to get all this shit together. They got Heath from Midtown doing an interview of Bigwig's Flavor Ice. They have Janet and Nina from Avery doing a cover of What a Shitty Summer from my old band Lanemeyer. You got like John from Folly doing Pink from Mohawk Barbie, and a shit ton of bands. You also got Chris Gether doing a cover of Just Like Kerr, which is hilarious because Chris can't sing for shit, and it's still great. And you're welcome for that, Chris. Feel free to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with anyone who would love some punk rock nostalgia. With that said, let's get started. So you're out in California, correct?
No, I'm in Jersey. I was born and raised in Jersey.
Oh, why did I think you were out in California? I thought
I don't know.
Rich said that you were. Time zone?
No,
Oh,
no,
maybe
no,
I'm
no. I'm
getting mixed up.
I'm a 201 number. It's I'm in Jersey all the time.
Oh, okay. Maybe I got you. I think I got that mixed up with someone else that I was setting up time with. I don't know. I'm getting old. I don't fucking know anything anymore.
Nope, I'm here in Jersey, man. I'm staying true to my coast.
Yeah, you're not going over to the West Coast, which sucks. No, just kidding. I like the West
No,
Coast. I don't like
no.
LA though. LA
I
sucks.
don't like LA. I don't really care for any of it, to be honest. I go there for work. I do my business. I have friends there. But for me to live, I'm an East Coast kind of guy, you know?
I think that's why I thought you were there because you have an IMDb.
Yeah.
And so real quick, we're going to talk about like the Jersey scene, but just real quickly because you got a photography website, which I'm on, and you have an IMDb. So tell me a little bit about this quickly because I'm interested in
Sure.
all that.
It's I know each of these sort of interviews is sort of it's like all right, I'm not really sure what you do actually because there's like a million things I'm trying to follow. But yeah, it's so photography is sort of my it was my bread and butter for quite a while. And you know, I still do my shoots. I was like I'm still doing a bunch of like anything from like editorial stuff to e-commerce stuff or you know, I still shoot all of the movie posters for all the movies that I work on. The photography is actually what got me into the film producing side because I spent so much time on film sets that I was able to see how a set was run. And so at that point, when I was reporting back to the producers, being like, "Hey guys, you know, hey, look, I'm just the set photographer, but I noticed the efficiency by X, Y, and Z, and I feel like you can get there faster by, you know, blah 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 blah." And they were just like, dude, you're on set probably more than anybody else. Why don't you run this, you know, stay on set and be the on-set producer? And then that turned into the creative producing, then just the general producing. So I still, they don't want me shooting as much. They just want me to hire someone. So I still volunteer myself to shoot all the movie posters because I love shooting. And yeah, I'm still just as busy as ever with photography, with so many different kinds of jobs, random jobs. And then the IMDb stuff is the producing side. So putting, you know, creative producing primarily and just getting scripts in better places with different writers or directors and assembling teams and helping create lookbooks and pitch packages and creating all the assets for all the images and doing the interviews with all the actors. So kind of everything.
Yeah, Jesus. Because your website's got some cool stuff. I'm on your motion part of your website. So these posters here, you design them or you took the
So
photos for them?
yeah, I did all the photography for them. Yeah.
What?
So we basically shoot everything, and I haven't even updated. Oh God, you're right. I need to update my website.
Yeah, get on
So
that shit.
there's even more now.
Wow.
So I work with Yale Productions, and so that's sort of my full-time gig is film producing with Yale Productions as a creative producer. But yeah, I shoot all of the because I've been doing this for I think I have maybe 16 movies now that I've done. So I sort of know what all the studios are going to do with all the images. So I'll sort of go into onto sets. I'll read through the scripts. I'll try to think of images that fully sort of capture the whole feeling of the movie, and then I'll try to set up photo shoots for that exact reason. So you know, I'll be, hey, this if we're able to get you looking here and this in this area, let's do some of these, and we'll sort of pitch some of those ideas to the to the studios. But yeah, so that that's sort of like I cover all the ground when it comes to the content for the movies, whether it's the interviews, the behind the scenes footage, the on-set photography, the movie posters. Yeah, and I'm sort of just running the whole operation with it.
That seems interesting. You'd be doing that then, and I'm not going to movies the whole time, but yeah, I've heard that sometimes during the edit, the whole story can change.
Yeah,
But I guess that's if you have a really shitty goal from the beginning, because I mean, it could,
exactly.
you know.
It's kind of like you're trying to polish a turd, man. It's like if you have a movie that goes to production and it's one story, but then it gets into the edit and you're like, oh man, it's so much better like this. That's just lack of pre-production. That's lack
Yeah.
of basically pre-production, because they if it's not solid, like we only take movies on that are bulletproof, that we know are going to do well in our market, that we know we can sell, and we don't take things on that are just going to lose money, because no one wants to put that on there. Like, it's not good for business,
Yeah.
and it's not good for us individually. So, we have to come to the table with strong concepts.
Wasn't a movie producer, my perception is that you guys are the ones that fund the movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, so the studio will I mean, they're obviously putting money into it, but you step in and say, I'm actually going to pay for a percentage of this.
No, actually, it's actually the producers, us, our production company. We fund the whole thing, the whole movie,
Oh,
and we actually sell the movie after it's made. So we
wow.
collect the money through different ways, through different avenues, through different sales agents, and then after the movie's done, then we sell it to the distributors, and that's how we're able to flip these movies. And so that's why we're very efficient with what we do, because it's like we do about 4 movies a year, and we just have to make sure that the formula works, and when it does, we just keep rolling, keep on rolling.
That's crazy. If you
It's
found,
crazy, man.
well, have you found like now during all this bullshit that's going on that it's been having a bit of a, I mean, besides the fact of downloading and torrents and all that crap, like, do you find that now with, I mean, maybe not because everyone's in their house, but have you seen like a hit since March?
Um, Only in production. So
Yeah.
our main business is going into production. So of course we can't film a movie. We shot a movie in January in Puerto Rico with Malin Ackerman, Alec Baldwin, Bella Thorne, a great comedy called Chick Fight, and we shot that. And at that time, the biggest worry that we had was, oh shit, should we go to Puerto Rico with all the earthquakes? Oh, I don't know, I don't know. So that was our biggest concern at the time.
Wow.
And now here we are, fucking whatever.
Jesus.
It's what is it? It's July
July.
now,
July. Yeah.
and we're just about to go back into our first movie in August, and it was like a struggle still to this day, a struggle to make sure that all the safety protocols are met. So it's been really, really tough to get actors to commit, and rightfully so. I mean,
Yeah.
shit, man. Like, I wouldn't want to necessarily get on a plane and do
They
all
don't
this
want
stuff
the
if I
vid.
didn't. Yeah, exactly. No one wants that shit. So, yeah, we're luckily going into our next movie, and we're trying to line them up all back to back. So we've been hit, but we're picking back up.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, and I'm gonna start talking about the Jersey scene pretty soon, but sorry, there's like I live right next to an ambulance depot or whatever it is. They just they're constantly saving lives and annoying me with their sirens. It's just, I'm
It's
kidding.
just like, we got to save another life already, man. Come
Dicks.
on.
Yeah, I keep thinking about all the series that I'm watching now or on Netflix that I'm excited for the next season to come out, but that's gonna be pushed off because it's like, well, how
Yeah.
the fuck are they gonna shoot it? They just can't.
They just can't. There's very, very, like, very few people are able to figure out the workaround. Some people are isolated on an island. Some people are quarantined off in the middle of like Montana on a soundstage where, like, there's crazy situations for people who are doing it. But that, I mean, everyone's delayed. So that's why we're trying to strike while the iron's hot, trying to be super safe and careful with what we're doing, but produce as much stuff as possible because the need for content right now is through the roof. Like, I mean, you got to imagine, like,
Yeah, that's
everyone
true.
queues shit up for the whole year, like they're all lined up. There's going to be this big pocket coming up very soon that there's going to be nothing coming out.
I know. I was thinking that. There's like nothing they're gonna have to go back. I mean, thank God for YouTube for just the fact of just getting like small snippets of shit. But yeah, all this stuff, it's like I mean, I can imagine Netflix is gonna go back into the vault and go, all right, well, let's go to all the things that we said no to and
Yeah,
just put that shit out because we
yeah.
have it.
I mean, dude, do you remember when Tiger King was happening? Like that was
Yeah.
perfect timing because that was probably one of those documentaries that was maybe sitting on the shelf for a minute and they're like, shit, no one's going anywhere. Hey, what about that tiger documentary thing? You know?
Yeah, they were like, wow, we should get more of those because that thing just made us bank for a hot
Oh my
minute
God.
and
It's
then
like
it's
the
gone.
highest rated it was like one of the highest rated shows ever on Netflix.
Yeah, I saw it too. I was like, I can't stop watching this. This is absolutely fucking fantastic.
It's so good. So
Yeah.
good.
So Jesse here was in the number 12 looks like you, which goes outside of the realm. So I just want to I know people listening are like, oh, that because you guys started in 2002 and took a
2001.
2001 and you took a run till
Yes.
2008. Is that correct?
Went till 2010.
Okay, 2010. My God, I'm off by two and
No,
week.
no, no. It's okay. It's just all like the information out there is always a
Yeah,
bit
I mean,
janky, but
Wikipedia is like pretty much I have Wikipedia up, I have your website up, I've got your Instagram up, I've got YouTube up, I've got Spotify. So I always keep these in front of me because through conversation, things pop up and it helps me just kind of think of the next question or just keep it going. Um,
absolutely. Yeah. So
but
so actually
yeah.
correction, 2011 because I remember I
Oh,
designed the poster of our dates and I'm like 10 years. What the fuck? So yeah, 2001 to 2011. That's when it was.
well, yeah, I mean, all I have to do is just update your Wikipedia says 2002, whatever. So anyway, so Jesse, the reason that to me this works is usually I want to talk to bands that started in the 90s, in the mid 90s, the early 90s, or the late 90s, and then if they're in a band that transitions into the 2000s. But Jesse grew up in Jersey, and this whole podcast started about talking about the Jersey scene. The whole focus for the first 29 episodes was strictly Jersey, and then I broke outside of that by episode 30, where I started talking to bands and producers and labels. Really, and the focus was all the things that influenced New Jersey to do what we did or get outside of it, and that's where it took this direction. But I like this because Jesse grew up in the Jersey scene, so I figured this would be really cool to talk about what got him to music, what got him to the scene, talk about the scene, and then how that led into him being in his band. I don't know, I just think this would be really interesting because usually anyone who grew up in the Jersey scene had such a passion for it and they just talk about that era with just like excitement. And
Yeah.
so I just set you up, so you better be very happy. No, I'm just
That
kidding.
was a very good setup. Um,
But let's go back. But let's go back. Let's go like start with like again. I just kind of go through a timeline, but let's talk about real. Just start off like what was that moment where music caught your attention as a young kid before you got into the scene?
yeah. So, oh, before I got into the scene.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
like what was like that song or that thing where you're like, oh man, I gotta pay attention to this.
um, I mean, my earliest memory of music ever in my whole existence was Michael Jackson. And I've noted that many times, saying that that's the first time I remember listening to music ever as a human, being a child. That was the first time I ever heard it. And then I remember watching all the Michael Jackson music videos and just being like,
The premieres that he always had,
oh,
like yeah.
dude, it was like I was obsessed. Like every like between his movie Moonwalker to
Oh yeah,
all those all the big elaborate videos. I was just so obsessed. So that was like my earliest memory of music that got me into just genuinely listening to music because I don't think before that I really even knew what music was. But Michael Jackson hit me, and I'm still to this day. I mean, I love pop anything, pop, punk, pop, music, alt pop, whatever. I love it all. Obviously, number 12 doesn't really
I
speak
was
to
gonna
that, but
say that's so funny because number
that's
12 is not that sound whatsoever. I mean, you guys are more like Blood Brothers, Dillinger Escape Plan, like screamy, hard, like
Yeah.
Converge, like that style of stuff. So it's funny that you like the sugary stuff.
Yeah, and you know what? That part is coming up.
Okay, nice.
So I had started off there. I still listen to all the pop stuff. And it wasn't until a couple friends of mine got me into just punk and ska, and like I was heavy punk ska. Like I was going to,
Well, how old were
I
you?
was
How old
just
were you when you got into that?
so at this point, the punk and ska stuff, I am maybe 12, 13 years old, and I'm just into like Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake, Catch 22, all stuff like that, and rocking the rainbow suspenders and stuff like that. I was heavily into that, met this guy in high school named Chris. We became friends, and he was just asking me about straight edge, and I was like, I don't really know what that means. And he was just telling me that, yo, so you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't do drugs. I was like, yeah, yeah, that's totally me. I don't do any of that stuff. So he had introduced me into the straight edge culture, which is like the whole hardcore scene. So he started introducing me to that. So this is the first time I'm like learning about heavier stuff like Earth Crisis and Strife and that whole world of
Yeah,
just
shut
New York hard
down, like
shut down, of
Victor.
course. Like
Yeah.
so he started introducing me to all that, and I'm sitting there being like, what the hell is this shit? Like, how are these people who don't do drugs and drink sing about that, but so much tougher than anything I've ever heard in my life? And I was like, that was it for me. He got me super heavy into that. So I got at around 15 years old, I started getting, or 14, 15, I started getting into the whole New York hardcore scene. Went to my first show. So my first show was going to see 25 to Life at Coney Island High on St. Mark's. I was 14, and I had never, ever, mind you, never, like then there was no way to like know what a show would necessarily entail because there's no social media. You can't watch videos. So we were like, I went into this like not knowing what to expect. I'm telling you, I walked into this thing and I'm seeing people doing spinning kicks and flying punches and like windmill arms. So confused of what was happening. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is happening? Where the hell are we? Why are these people spinning their fucking arms? Why is everyone fighting? Like, no, no, no. This is hardcore dancing. I'm like, dancing. This is dancing. This is hardcore dancing, and like seeing sing-alongs for the first time, people piling up for the first. Like I mean that changed everything for me. That when so at 14 years old, when I was basically into pop punk and ska, I had shifted so aggressively into the hardcore scene and just became obsessed with everything hardcore, and then that started leading into just general sort of screamo, and I was getting into like the early Jersey because being from Jersey, you're hearing about these other sort of screamy bands, but they're not hardcore. You and I, Neil Perry, Seisha, and I'm hearing about all these things. Like Thursday was in there,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh man, this is sick. And like then it turned like where I was super into pop, and I felt like I think where a lot of people in their young teens, where they say like, "Oh, I'm super emo," and I listen to My Chemical Romance. It's like I was the exact same way, but emo was just different then for me. Like emo, quote unquote emo, was just basically screamo. So it's like people, I was listening to Love Lost but Not Forgotten, and I was getting into like this like screaming into the air, but clean guitar, basement feeling, like singing, like really hard. And I'm like, oh my God, this. And like, that was basically like what was the, like, that was it that clicked with me. That was like, this is like my world now. Like, this is everything I relate to. And it wasn't necessarily pop, but it was so emotional. That was that was like everything for me. Yeah, so that was like kind of that was my first memories of how I got from music ever into listening to music into essentially the scene that it all started.
So to go back to like when you were listening to Real Big Fish and Less Than Jake and all that, you were 13 at that point, and
Yes.
how old are you now?
So I'm 30, how old am I? 36.
How old am I?
I was like, oh my God, how old am I?
So then
Yeah,
that means
36.
that so was that like 96, 97 when you were getting
Yeah,
into it?
yeah, yeah. So, because I remember going to one of the first Warp Tours. So
Yep.
that must have been like, oh my God, what year was it? Was the year that Eminem was on. Eminem was on that
I think it was
year.
not. I think that was 98 because 97 is when I graduated high school and we went to a Warp Tour in Asbury Park.
Oh my God,
Yeah, and I
yes,
remember
that's
Real Big Fish played. Um, Social
so good.
Distortion was on like midday or late day. Blink 182 was touring on Dude Ranch that summer, and so they played the
Oh,
stage over. Yeah, but the
oh.
Eminem one happened the next year because Deftones I think played that
Right
one.
after so Deftones played right after Save Ferris. I'll never forget it. Save Ferris played, they played Come On Eileen, and then they're like, thanks everybody, and then you hear boo, rah, and I was like, what the hell? And I turned my head to the other stage, and it's just Deftones crushing. I'm like, oh my God, like what is happening right now?
Yeah, I've so my drummer, I was in a band called Lanemeyer, and
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I remember. It was funny because one of my close friends, Drew, I had told her about this podcast coming. I was like, "It's with the dude from Lamar." She's like, "No fucking way! It's so cool." I was like,
oh,
"Yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah."
That's all
So
right.
funny.
Well, my Thursday just been made. Well, Sean, who was the drummer, I have photos that he took from that show. I think he was on the side of the stage and he took photos of Deftones playing like that
Oh my
exact
God,
show. Yeah, I'll have to dig them
that's
up.
so
I have
cool.
this like box full of actual photographs from back then because I used to carry around like a camera with like the wind up, not like the Kodak ones, but you'd buy film and
The,
wind it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so so I have a whole box of these, and I know those are in there. But I remember hearing because I love, I still to this day, I fucking love the Deftones. They're
Oh, same,
so
same.
amazing. So did you have like, okay, so you were in the punk scene at that time. Like, were you going to local shows at 13?
Uh, I was not, I wasn't, I don't think I just really knew how to get to any of them because I just like, for me, I was very into those bands, but I just wasn't able to like go to, like, I didn't really know the scene of like how to go to Wayne Firehouse or like the Wetlands or
Yeah.
like any of the Manville Elks Lodge and shit like that. My first real memory was like I said, 25 to Life. I did go to that show at that age. I think it must have been like 14. It had to have been when I was 14. I remember finally getting back into the bands that I've always wanted to see after that because that was like sort of my cherry pop time. And then I started going to like then I started going to see all these like I would go see Mustard Plug at Coney Island High. I'd go see like Bigwig. I'd go to the Wayne Firehouse. I went to the Manville Elks Lodge for the Saves the Day Through Being Cool CD release show. Like I
Someone
was
someone just brought that up yesterday. Oh
oh
no, my
no
friend, yeah,
way.
my friend Melissa, what she was one of the Bergenfield girls. So they used to put on the shows at Teaneck and Teaneck American Legion. I don't know. Do you
Yeah,
remember when
yeah.
that was open? Okay,
Bro,
that was in
I never
Bergen.
really went to the shows there, but I was more of we were more into the Allendale VFW. We had the Allendale
Oh
Firehouse,
hell yeah!
or I don't know if no, it's not Firehouse. Sorry, it was
It was
just
the
the
Legion.
VFW.
It was a
Yeah, the
hall.
Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
it. The Legion. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I have photos. We played a show there. I'm not gonna talk about me the whole time, but like we played a show there. There's a it was like there's a I gave my bass to Derek from Shorty, and I ended up just like doing laps around the place while we're playing, just because it was such a big fucking spot and had like the
So
cathedral
huge.
ceilings, I
I
think.
love that spot, man. I love that. We did our CD release show there, or our EP release show, and it was right when Jeff from Thursday signed us to Eyeball Records. And at that time, like we were with My Chemical Romance label mates, and I'll never forget being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we're playing this sold out EP show," and Jeff from Thursday standing right behind me, like. I was like losing my mind when that happened.
That's fucking great. Wait, the through being cool one because there's a guy doing a book. I don't know how much it's out there, but he's doing a book about the scene. And so Melissa messaged me. She's like, "Hey, did you talk to so and so?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Yeah, he was asking me all this stuff." And he goes, "He asked me about the Saves the Day show at Manville. I didn't know that they did a CD release party at the
Yeah,
Manville for Through Being Cool. Like, I can't believe I fucking missed that. I have no idea why I would have missed that show."
dude, I mean, it went down in history. It was when it was A Newfound Glory, Get Up Kids,
What?
Saves the Day, and someone else. Yeah.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah. Who was the other one? It was
I'm looking this up.
look, yeah. See if you could, because yeah, it was like when they were still called A Newfound Glory. Get Up Kids, Saves the Day, and oh my God, who was the other one?
So have you been to the NJPP archives? Have you heard about
No,
this? Okay, so
no.
Joe Polito, he was in 37 Slurp, and they were like a Jersey band, a Jersey pop punk band. So he created this archive of every fucking demo, basically, from every band from New Jersey from
Oh
that
my
time period.
God.
Yeah, and so it's njpparchives.com, and he's got it A through Z, so you can click on any. It's like A through F, G through M. You click on it, and just a list, and it goes to a SoundCloud page where it has like Mohawk Barbie and Boxcar and Shower with Goats, like I mean all these bands. But he has a flyer section, so every time I'm in these conversations, I go there to see if I can find the flyer from that show. What was that 90?
What?
Was that 98 or 99 when they put that out? I'm not gonna hold this here, but like I
Yeah.
really.
You got to look it up, man, because I'll never forget that show. Chris from Saves the Day, he like it was because that was just when I first heard about Saves the Day, and his mom was at the show, and it was like
What?
legendary. I mean, legendary. Rick to Life was there selling merch
He
because
was
he does his
always selling merch at
always selling.
shows.
Dude, he was slinging merch, man. He had his distro set up.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, what you said 25 to life. I was like, oh, I gotta mention how Rick to Life was always selling his
dude,
CDs at the shows.
slinging all the merch, selling all the like 7 inches, just trying to make his buck, man. I couldn't diss him for that.
Oh my God, that's so great. Yeah, and he was the most intimidating looking guy, but he was so nice. Like
So
that
nice.
was the thing too
Yeah.
about that time, like how you said you walked into that hardcore show. I mean, I still to this day, like I don't really know what the true story is with Earth Crisis because there was always these rumors, which I mentioned before, about I remember in the late 90s, there was a rumor that people used to get their asses beat by them because they weren't straight edge. And, who fucking knows? That was just what I knew back then. So every time I heard about Earth Crisis, I was always just, well, that band sounds really scary. But then yesterday's interview I was talking about how I bought the One Truth documentary from when
Yeah.
Stripe was on tour, and he was so fucking funny and seemed like the coolest, and they seemed like the coolest guys. So I was like, I don't know what to believe about these hardcore guys, but I guess in reality, they were all super fucking nice, but looked so goddamn intimidating.
Yeah, and I think that's how it is with I just feel like that's how it is with a lot of hardcore guys because like they're I don't know, I just feel like I've to this day out of all the bands that I've toured with, played with, met with or just seen and got a chance to like chat with, all the toughest of the toughest from like the hardcore scene or the death metal scene whatever, I've still yet to find anyone who is genuinely genuinely an asshole or intimidating or just put out such a negative vibe personally to me. Like I've never come across any of that, but it
Yeah.
wasn't until you got into the more into the like more of the like alt rock and more radio people because I was managing bands for a while and so I was heavily involved in that like world and it wasn't until I got into that world where I started meeting the real assholes where I'm not even going to mention any of them but I was like yo, you're in this band, shut the fuck up, like what, like how dare you talk to people like that. And I was like, these fucking assholes got some balls, man. And then you go to like a Dying Fetus show and the guys are just like literally the sweetest people you've ever met. Like it's insane. And so I tell that to people all the time. They're like, oh man, they're those crazy, like they're probably so aggressive and so mean and stuff. I was like, I can guarantee you will not find anybody who is like that. Like at least like in my personal experience, they're so few and far between if that happens.
Well, it's funny because actually a question I was thinking of earlier, I'm going to ask in a second. However, I found the flyer, I believe. So Bomb Shelter presents Saves the Day release show with, and this is on, when the fuck was this? November 6th, 1999. It says,
Okay.
Get Up Kids this could have been for the third album maybe, but this is Get Up Kids at the Drive-In, Fast Break, Ultimate Fake Book. So maybe in Midtown.
No.
So that must have been the next one where they think they
Yeah.
did it in Wayne, maybe.
Yeah. Because I know I mean I remember.
You said Newfound
Yeah.
Glory.
I
Yeah.
don't. I don't remember any of those bands. I mean, I definitely remember Get Up Kids because I was like huge into Get Up Kids, or I still am into Get Up Kids, and to this day for that matter.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was a show. I don't
Yeah, it,
recall.
it it must have been when they put out what was the one after Cancel It Down? God damn, I've said it so many times.
Hold on, don't tell me. Cancel Down,
Not
Through
Through
Being
Being Cool.
Cool. So yeah, it was a
Stay What
Through
You
Being
Are.
Cool
Stay
CD.
What You Are.
Stay What You Are. Yep.
Yes, that must have been that one. Okay, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, the Stay What You Are album though. Oh, so good.
That was incredible. Yeah. So okay, so but just that the question I got brought up before is that you said you started off with all these like pop bands and stuff, and then you went to Earth or 25 Delay. If you saw that and you were like, I need to do this, and then obviously later on you get into number 12 Looks Like You, and it's screamo hard. Like, did you have an aggressive side as a young kid like that you just, or did you find out before you started your band, or did you find that when you started your band?
it's kind of it's kind of interesting with number 12 because the if I mean you can look like it's I guess your perspective of number 12 is like you have to sort of see where like I guess it's yeah it's all like how you take the perspective of number 12 because a lot of people see it as like crazy grind like immensely brutal punishing grindcore or whatever. You could see it as that because yes it is a very aggressive very fast, but then if you sort of just take a minute and like if you show the context of number 12 in between more like indie rock, heavier rock bands, and then you put number 12 in the context of like Converge and Anal Cunt or something like that, you can see how we can sort of float in between those worlds, but then you would change your perspective of what the genre is. So I feel like when you're in this convergy sort of world, you obviously you're like, oh, that's sort of that style. But then you put us like on Eyeball Records, label mates with My Chemical Romance and stuff like that, then it's just like, oh man, this could be like it's sort of like it's like a screamo band. Like we weren't that far off from a Love Lost But Not Forgotten, a Neil Perry, a Seisha, You and I. Like obviously a bit heavier than You and I, but like we weren't that far off from just screamo basically. And so for me, I always lean more towards that side of like it's emo music, but it's really emo music, like very like you're instead of like just of like ha, 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 like you're just screaming at the top of your lungs because it's just punishing, and the music
Interesting.
is heavily influenced by just experimental, like very experimental. But vocally, for me, that was always my approach was like more emo.
Well, did you like, because kind of, let's see, around like 99, 2000 is where it started to shift, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we, when we got into it, it was punk and ska. Hardcore was around us because I talked to Matt from Uprise like about 10 episodes ago. So there's like the hardcore scene there. So we're all kind of meshing. And then around like 98, 99 is where a couple screamo bands would pop in. I think Thursday, I swear they were playing locally at that time because I swear to God I remember playing shows where they were openers, and I could be completely
Oh
wrong.
yeah.
But
I'm
I also
sure.
think that I might be mistaking them with Shady View Terrace. So
Man,
that's what I want to talk about. Like,
I can definitely
yes.
see the comparison there. Yeah,
Yeah, because that's what, like the whole screamo thing came. I was like, all
that's
right,
it.
and so I would come in and be like, okay, like I really was not, and like I love the Shady View guys, like they were the nicest dudes, and we would like hang out with them at shows and stuff like that. But that sound, I mean, I liked a lot of harder stuff growing up, and I just was like, okay, the shows. It's weird that these guys are. I mean, they stick out like a sore fucking thumb because this isn't you can't absorb this like ska and pop punk where you just sit there easily.
Yeah.
Like you have to really pay attention and be like, okay, I'm in this. I'm committing to 30 minutes to be in this because this is intense.
Yeah.
And so these bands are
Yeah.
popping up. So I mean, I don't really know how that got us into this question, but like Shady View Terrace, like I saw when I started seeing videos of you guys play and listening to you guys, were they a band that you saw prior to? I mean, it was prior to you guys starting. So you started in 2001,
It
so
yeah. It was, but I none of us really listened to it though.
okay,
Unfortunately, like yeah, we were. I think what made number 12 sort of become the sound that we are is because we all listen. None of us listen to the same music. So the other singer, Justin, at the time, he might have been listening to a little bit of that. So we do feel like we have influences from everywhere, because it truly was like, it wasn't like we were all pop punk kids, or we were all hardcore kids, or we were all screamo kids. Like, we were all genuinely in our own scenes at that time when we started. So inspiration was being pulled from everywhere, which is why we sounded so weird and just a bit like scattered. And to this day, I mean, even our latest album, like, it's still the same exact thing. Like, me and the main writer Alex will never really agree on listening to the same things, so it's always butting heads. But that's literally what creates every number 12 album, because like, we create something that's so different that we're like, oh, it's probably why we're not like the biggest band in the world, which we're beyond happy with, because it's not the goal with it. We just want to make something that I would be happy with, he would be happy with, and we met in the middle, and we're like, oh, this is cool.
Well, I mean, this is like the same time too. I mean, did you? Because I'm just trying to think of like, because prior to you guys, I mean, Blood Brothers had been out because they had the dual singers like you
They,
guys.
yeah, and yeah, at that time, I never, I never even heard of Blood Brothers until like after we started up,
That's so
and then people
funny.
started comparing us to Blood Brothers, and
And you're like, what the fuck?
I was like, what the hell is this? Well, they have two singers too. The two singers thing only happened on accident, because like, I couldn't play the drums, and I was supposed to be the drummer, and I was a shitty drummer. So that's the only reason why there's two singers, because I was like, I can't play drums, but like, I started this, so let me do something. And we already had Justin, who was screaming at that first practice, so we both just started doing it. We're like, yeah, this will do. This is fine. So like, we like, for me, my like, my influences at that time were like, was, yeah, like Thursday was a big one.
Was
um
Dillinger a big influence at all?
you know not even, because like, at that time I only heard about Dillinger, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, but I didn't religiously listen to it. And like, even if I did, it's not music I would have listened to. I was
That's
listening
so
to more.
funny. Sorry,
I
go
know.
ahead.
And me, well, the funny thing is, with the whole Dillinger thing, it was always the thing that like floated around us since the beginning of time, because like, we didn't none of us really knew who Dillinger was. Like, I've seen them because they played they would be playing shows. They played that Warped Tour that we were just talking about, and I remember there was fire breathing happening. There was
Yeah.
like, I was like, what the fuck is this? But we never, for me, I never really like went and like put it on. Like, it would always be on somewhere, like, oh, this is pretty cool, and I'd always be like, oh, I should listen to that, I should listen to that. But I was like, genuinely way more into that more like, yeah, just like, I
Saves the
don't know if you
day,
know,
Newfound Glory.
Saves a Day, Newfound Glory. I was just into all like stuff like that. But then I was also getting into just metal core in general. Like, I was listening to tons of Poison the Well at the time,
Yeah.
opposite of December. I mean, who the fuck wasn't listening to that album? I was listening to, like, I was hanging with the From Autumn to Ashes guys every weekend. So we were all hanging. Like, these were the things that I was just surrounded by, which sort of crafted this, like, those like the Trustkill bands and the Ferret Records bands, and like all these things that were just constantly in my orbit. The Red Chord, who was floating around, and I was like, everything, it was just all floating around and floating around. And like, I was listening to kind of all of it, really. And so when number 12 happened, I just, the screaming came because it was like, I was listen, I knew I always want to be a hardcore singer, and I was like, oh man, this is really cool. But then when those like Jersey basement bands started coming around, the the You and I's and Neil Perry's and stuff like that, I was like, whoa, listen how cool this is. They're screaming over clean guitars, like, that's so cool. And that band, Love Lost But Not Forgotten, from St. Louis, they also had two singers as well, coincidentally. And we, like, you would have never known that because there's never any videos, and you don't know anything more about that. So you're just like, listen to screeching high pitched vocals, and I was just so attracted to that style. This Day Forward also did that with their first album, The Transient Effects of the Light and the Water. The singer was like one of the heaviest, and he might be like top three biggest influences for me as a singer, because like, just punishing, screeching vocals, but like, there was still a very warm side to him. And it was like, not like, I'm gonna, I'm gonna climb to the top of this mountain and I'm gonna fucking crush all of you. It was very like deep and poetic with what he was saying, and I just found it beautiful, beautiful. And Yeah, and Saves the Day was lyrically my biggest. I thank Saves the Day in every number 12 album. I don't have any connection to them. I don't know them. I just thank Saves the Day, and they're the only band I thank because that was like Chris was my lyrical inspiration for every number 12 album. The way he would craft words and have his sort of like analogies, like comparing things, and that was such a heavy, like so poetic and so like, oh, I love how he used those words and twisted those around,
Yeah.
and that's how all the number 12 lyrics are.
That's funny, man. That's interesting. That no, it's so fascinating because I mean, you have your perception of that when people are in X kind of band, even if it is like the Saves the Day band, like they only listen to that style, and
Yeah.
that's what influences them. But did you find like going from because I just kind of thought because my brain just starts going through and putting pieces together and stuff as I'm like always have these as I'm having these conversations. So like you're getting into the scene and then as the scene is like flipping over into the early 2000s and it takes off in a whole different direction where it just opens up and expands in this in all these different ways where more like musically it was just like a lot more was put into things. And so it was like when you're transitioning over to that, did you notice at a point when you wanted to start the band or got in the band where you're like, oh, the door is finally open where this is going to work. This sound is going to work, and we're going to be able to keep doing this.
uh, yeah, I feel like I just wrote something about this actually. So we re-released our second EP. It's called An Inch of Gold for an Inch of Time, and I was trying to think of a good caption for it, and I was reminiscing about what you just said. I was because so at that point we had put on your rosy red glasses, which is our first album, and it was just something that we made on our own, and it was just brutal, like just a brutal album. We're like, fuck yeah, this is super cool. Like this is badass. We had no like honestly when we put it out, like nobody expected anything. No one expected to ever play shows. No one expected to go on tour. Nothing like that happened. And when we put out this album, which we did on our own, we had gotten approached by Eyeball Records and remember like everything I just told you, and then you're getting a call from Jeff from Thursday being like, "Oh man, I'd love to sign get you guys signed over to Eyeball." I'm sitting there like, they were just about to put out War All the Time. They were coming off a full collapse, and like I'm sitting there being like, "What the fuck is happening right now? Like, why is anyone listening to?" I was like, "Why are you listening to this? Why are you listening to my band? Like, you shouldn't be listening to this. Like, this isn't like cool." And and I remember we started playing shows, and we had this EP, Rosy Red. We took on a couple small tours, and I remember like we did our first quote unquote real tour. We went out with Dillinger, and they took us out on our first like actual across the country tour that started in
Wow.
Wisconsin, and we were like, what the hell? And we just from that point on, it was like sold out show. Like first time I've ever been in California in my life, and we're playing a show where there's like a line out the door. I'm like, who the fuck is playing there? And I was like, they're like, that's our show, man. I'm like, what? Like we're like young teenagers being like, what the fuck? We're losing our minds. Like everyone's going crazy. And like at that point when that was happening, and Eyeball hit us up saying like, hey, you guys are doing something, and we're like, what? Being on a indie rock label, like who the hell are all these other bands on this? And there was no one else on the label that sounded remotely close to us. It was like, I mean, you had this drumming man who became Gaslight
Yep,
Anthem.
that's
You
right.
had My Chem. You had the fucking the dude from Rise Against. He was in a band. He was in a band signed to Eyeball. So like they had this all-star roster of like people who were going on to get to their next careers, and we're just there after like right when we're about to sign to the label. That was the first time we were like, hey guys, this is kind of like a thing now. Like this is real. So we should probably take it more seriously. Like, because at that point we were just working at the mall and working like I was working at Journey's shoe store, and Justin was working at the cookie stand next door to mine,
Oh
and
my
like
God.
we're
Wait,
like,
wait, at the Garden State Mall? Or
yeah, that's right,
wow,
Garden State Plaza.
Garden State
So
Plaza.
I was working at Journey's. He worked right next door to me at Mrs. Fields, and and we were like, we're this is kind of like turning into something serious,
Did you,
and
when you
yeah.
were working there, did you have ever any kids come in? They're like, "Holy shit, you're the guy from the Number 12 band."
No, 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 because this was like right. I didn't. So basically, like, how the timeline worked was I had quit Number 12 right when Number 12 started doing all of this. So I was like on tour without a job yet. So I had already been gone from Journeys
Oh,
by the time Number 12 got any notoriety.
oh, okay.
Because we started recording when I was still working there, still recording the album, and then we started touring. I was like, all right, I got to go on tour. So I stopped working there. So at that point, I had no job to come back to. But it was definitely weird to come back home and like we're seeing our shirts in Hot Topic. And I was like, what? I was like,
That's
oh my
wild.
God, we made, and that was like making it for us at that time, because like we were in the listening station. We had like our own end cap of the EP that was exclusive through Hot Topic, and our designs were on the wall. We're like, what? It was crazy. My mom was like losing her shit.
Well, did you guys actually play at all in Jersey? Like, 'cause you sounds like you were on the road the whole time.
Yeah, we played. We went. Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
you did
like,
your CD release show at Allendale.
so we did. Yeah, we did a ton of Jersey stuff. But before, like, you gotta remember too, it sounds like all like glitz and glamour. When Number 12 started, man, like like probably to this day, some things that still stick with me that of like fear, like the PTSD from how horrible our reception was and how much we got heckled. Um,
Oh wow.
and mainly in Jersey and the tri-state area, because like there were bands out there. Do you remember that band December? Do you
December
remember them? December?
Decemberists?
No, no, I didn't know December.
December.
They were a local, super local, like Belleville style band,
No.
December, and they were like very screamy, but like we were playing a show with them, and I really liked them a lot. Like they were like a very Poison the Welly sort of band, very, very brutal, and I remember being so excited about playing a show with them at Montclair too, at the college, and we went to play, and I was like, oh man, this is so cool. We get to open the show. And I remember we have one of our songs on our first album called "If These Bullets Could Talk," and there's like a whole part where it's clean guitar and we're screaming. And I remember like someone was recording a video, and I didn't remember this. Like I almost forgot about it, but someone was recording the video, and I remember seeing it way later on. But I remember at the time we're screaming, so I'm screaming in the air. There's a clean guitar happening, and then the guys from December were like, "Wah, wah," like just like totally making fun of us and calling us pussies while we were there. Like literally, the whole place is quiet, and it's just them making fun of us. And I just remember like my heart was just shattered, because I
Oh
was
man.
like I was so like I remember playing the rest of the show so upset. I was like just not there, not with it. And like that was like just the beginning of all the heckling we would get from like, we like as many lovers as we got just as much haters. And I remember talking to Jeff from Thursday about this. He's like, you have to always remember, like, Thursday got made fun of so much, and you gotta remember, as many haters as you have about 10 times more lovers. It's because that you're doing so well. These haters are just hating on you. He said that is like how we got to where we were. And he's like, don't read any of the message boards. Don't listen to what anyone else is saying. Keep doing what you're doing. But like it was still hard, man. Like it was really hard, because like like I said, we were getting onto some of these like really heavy bills, but still screamo. So we're like doing really emo things and getting made fun of by the metal kids. And then we'll be playing in front of the emo kids, and they're just all walking out of the room because people are moshing and they're too scared. So it was like we couldn't find the balance of us for quite a while, and it was like a really traumatizing time.
I was gonna say that because you got to witness from going to shows into that, like I said, that shift, and you guys are plugging yourself into it and having to deal with that shift where people were, because I moved to LA in 2001 and I came back to Jersey in 2004, like right in March 2004. And so Chris, who was in Landmark, he went on to do a band called Day at the Fair, and they were playing locally. So I went with them to a show, and I remember walking in, and I just felt how everything had changed. And this is at the time when
Yeah.
Hamilton Street was where people played,
Oh yeah.
like Bloomfield's
Yeah. Oh
Cafe.
yeah.
Bloom
Bloomfield Ave Cafe.
Bloomfield,
Of
yeah,
course.
like I didn't like it. I came in, I'm like, I don't enjoy this. And then I started a band with some friends and we were playing shows and it was just not the fucking same. And this is when you guys are starting and, well, had started, and you're about 3 years in when I'm seeing this. But then by that time, I'm guessing that's like, because was it 2003 is when you put out your first album? Because that's what it says on Spotify.
That yeah. It's got to be that. It's got to be that. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, it said, wait, yeah, it says 2003, and then 2007 is where you put out Mongrel?
Yes. Mongrel. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mongrel.
That's correct. Because we did Mongrel 2007, then Worse Than Alone 2009.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys were just living through this whole era where I was just completely detaching and just pulling away. Where I'd occasionally go to shows, but they were at giant clubs. Like I wasn't going to local shows unless we were playing a couple. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't like this anymore. And you guys are just getting like just metaphorically like punched in the face by people because you're trying this new thing. Which at the time, like I mean, I was
Punished.
probably one of those people too back then when I was listening. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? It's like every
Yeah.
band that came out then, I was just like, fuck this. I'm not about it. But then later on, I was like, oh, God damn it, these bands are actually really good. And I like them now. But that was we were
Yeah.
just so just like, no, we're not accepting this.
Yeah, it was a very, very scary time when it all first started off. But unfortunately, I'm sure it's not like I'm just trying to be like, oh, feel sorry for me. I mean, it was like
No.
we were still having the honor of being in a band that people wanted to like see, but we essentially, in my opinion, like it wasn't even like, haha, we had the last laugh, but we kind of did. I mean, a lot of the bands that like the I'm not going to name any more bands. I even feel bad naming December, but that's just true. That was one of the bands. But the a lot of the other bands who wound up never going anywhere, like we wound up having making a good name for ourselves. And like I remember feeling so good. Like when I remember we had played Hellfest at Rexplex here in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and we were one of the headline like we were like right below like two below the headliner of like NGWK. And I remember a lot of these Jersey bands that were making fun of us that we grew up, they were all there. I saw so many of them and we played and it was just insane. I was like, ha ha, ha you dickheads, fuck all you. Because like dude, it was like telling you, man, it traumatized me for so many years after that. And to this day, like I'll still have like these little fears of or little insecurities that just like any life experience that people have that scars them. It will always bring back memories, and still going up on stage is still a very fragile thing for anybody. And so anytime you hear like a little bit of bickering or a little bit of something, or it's not even bickering, just hearing, your mind reverts back to that bad memory and you're like, no, 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 it's not bad, it's just people are just talking, it's all good. And like I'll still have some insecurities even though we've been doing this for 20 years. You know what I mean? So like it's very traumatizing that time, and people were not afraid to fucking be assholes about it.
That's crazy, man. It's so wild to like get that side of it because
Yeah.
I just saw a lot of those bands, and actually, I sadly have to wrap this up soon because I have a deadline I have to hit with, with doing
Sure.
an
Yeah. Yeah.
animation
Yeah. Of
project.
course.
Um, it's because when my perspective of these bands when I'm seeing them, I just thought like all of you guys just had this easy time because so many bands just came up and they'd be on Warp Tour with thousands and tens of thousands of kids, and you'd see these. Actually, you wouldn't even see videos. You'd see AP
Yeah.
Magazine would just create this bullshit facade about how great it was going for everyone, but you didn't get the sides where you guys were like, yeah, like shit was really brutal.
Shit was real, man.
Did you notice that? Did you have any other bands that you were friends with that they were feeling the same kind of backlash?
um, I'm sure I mean, I'm not thinking of any right now. I don't know. I mean, we became friends with so many different kinds of bands, but they were much more down their own specific alley. Like, when we toured with the Fall of Troy, for example, like they knew their
Oh yeah.
alley and they knew their audience, and so there wasn't any stragglers. For us, we had a lot of these like Dillinger fans, and then we had a lot of these like Thursday fans. Then we had a lot of these indie rock fans. Then we had a lot of these. So we had so many different fans coming together for the first time, and they're all sort of just like looking at each other, being like, "This is a little weird." So it's we were in such a strange place that it was hard to relate to many other friends that we were band friends that we knew who experienced a lot of the same stuff because they were much down their genre. Like we just do metal, we just do pop punk, we just do screamo, we just do Poison the Well, whatever. For us, we're just like scattered across all of it. So yeah, it was like we felt like we were kind of on our own planet at times, a lot of the time.
So what was like the straw that broke the camel's back when you guys finally called it quits?
We called it quits in 2009 because I was just losing my mind, man. It was like we had done the tour in 2009. It was 2010. They were like, "All right, time for another album." And I was like, guys, I just don't know if I have it in me, right? Like, I don't know if I got it anymore. Like, this is all I've done, and it's beaten me into a pulp. Like the gauntlet of what I've went through in life from my teen years to my mid 20s. Like those are such essential years of someone's development, to their existence. And I had felt just I just felt like I've been so worn down. Like all I knew was all I knew was touring. I didn't know how to do anything else. We've done like 2,000 shows at that point, and I was like, all I know how to do is play shows, write albums. I was like, I have no more friends because I don't get to see anybody. I miss out on all the family events. I was like, I have no other like, and I was managing other bands at that time as well, a band called Foxy Shazam,
Oh wow,
and
yeah.
so that was my first band I ever picked up, and all the way to basically this day, that was like my baby project, like everything. So
Oh,
I
that's
had
crazy.
Foxy, I had a band called Bad Rabbits,
Oh, Bad
I
Rabbits,
had
dude. I loved Bad Rabbits.
yeah, yeah, so they're still doing their thing, but me and my guy Jay, we produced Stick Up Kids, and Foxy,
What?
I did introducing that album and got him signed to Warner. So like I was still heavily involved in this world, and I was also working with producers. Like I had Brett Detter from Juliana Theory, I had Ben Jorgensen from Armor for Sleep, I had so like, and this is me still like young 20s with this roster, and it was like number 12 was happening. This roster was blowing up. Like I just signed Foxy to Warner. Bad Rabbits, we just got them with Teddy Riley from Blackstreet. Brett Detter was like doing his album. Ben was doing his thing. Jay DeZuzio had Cobra Starship in the studio. Crush Management was trying to buy me out so I can work there. And so I was like, you know what? Number 12 and all you fucking like all touring days. I was like, because I love shows and I love the fan base we built, but I was mentally exhausted, and that's it. It's as simple as that. Like I was so tired of going on tour and getting sick and going on tour and getting sick because I was just susceptible to every sickness out there. So I'd be coming home, recovering, then going into the studio to write and then record and then doing it all over again. So I was like, I'm just gonna focus on my bands, and that was it.
That's wild, dude. That is an impressive as fuck. Like,
Thanks, man.
I shouldn't side story too. This is kind of weird, but Bad Rabbits, and I'm gonna wrap this up. But Bad Rabbits, I saw them at a show at Maxwell's in like 2009,
Oh, I was there
2010. Were
with
you
Glassjaw.
really? They, yeah, with Glassjaw. That's right. That was when that
I was the
they.
one who put that whole thing together. Yeah, I hit up Justin Beck from Glassjaw and I was like, "Yo, man,
What?
I got this new band that I'm working with called Bad Rabbits. Would you want to partner up with me to like design their whole everything?" And he fell in love with Bad Rabbits, and he's like, "Yo, these guys are sick." And so I was like, "Well,
It's
check out what I'm
amazing.
working on." So we partnered up, and that was it.
I told someone after I saw that, I was like, these guys are like, what? What's this guy's name in the time? Um,
Which
it's the
which
band
one?
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. The band ends the movie. It's something day in the time,
Oh, I don't know.
Oh God damn it! But I told everyone, I was like, this band, because I went there to see Glassjaw because I'm a huge Glassjaw fan, and
Yeah.
they when they started playing, I just like ran to the front. I was like, oh sweet God! But Bad Rabbits played, and cool, but then sad later on. Like when I got married, I'm divorced now, but when I got married, we came into the first song on that EP.
Oh
Uh,
my God, booties.
but yeah, it started off and like
The
me and
glitch. You got the bad rappers is in the building.
yes, and then it just like it's
And it's
like
about to pop off, you know. So
yeah,
I
that
record. So I
that was
recorded
the
that.
entrance to
Yeah.
the reception where me and my now ex like came in because we saw them that night and I was like we were thinking of our wedding songs and I was like we have to come into this song. She was like, "Oh fuck
Oh,
yes we
that's
do."
so funny, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recorded that whole intro there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's such a small world. Yeah, so that
That's
was my.
crazy.
I saw them right when they changed. They were called Eclectic Collective, and then I saw a show, their first show as Bad Rabbits. I was there, and I was like, I'd love to manage you guys, and that was it. And we put together Stick Up Kids,
That's
did all the
great.
artwork, everything. Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone listening, you should go check them out. They were a great, and their live show was fucking fantastic.
So amazing, man.
Yeah.
And like it was just great to like be there from the beginning to like develop it into what it turned into. At like it was just such a crazy ride to like see this band happening. Everyone was, and like I was like, all right, I'm putting this tour package together. Foxy Shazam, Bad Rabbits. I was like, let's do this, and that tour was just so successful, man. It was insane.
That's amazing. Actually, yeah, because I got your Instagram. I'm just like been scrolling through and like seeing all the stuff you did. But there's one picture you have where it's got Sean Williams, I guess, from Stifler.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, Sean William
yeah,
Scott. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like yeah, Sean William Scott. It's got him. I think it's the singer from A Day Remember, but then the singer from Foxy Shazam's he's in the top left, and the one dude's in
Oh,
front of like a hot rod picture.
yeah, Eric is in there.
Yeah,
Um,
this is
yeah,
great stuff.
I scatter across a lot of different random people. That's for sure.
Dude, this is awesome. Well, I do have to wrap this up because a client of mine just emailed me and she's like, "So when's that video coming?" I'm like,
Yeah,
I got caught up in some stuff.
busy.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm busy doing the things I actually like
Yeah, yeah,
instead of the things that
exactly.
like pay me for my
Well,
fucking rent.
all good, man. All good.
Um, yeah, dude,
Well,
okay, so I ended with two questions, unless you had a question that you want to ask because you were about to say
oh
something.
no, no, no,
Oh, okay.
no, no.
Yeah, so actually, and Jesse's got an Instagram as Jesse Korman, two S's, it's JESSEKORMAN.
Yeah,
So
people
check
always
that out.
say like Jesse. It's like nope, Jesse.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to spell it because we were like, oh, like
Yeah.
spell it. They're like, he's lying. So he's got an Instagram to check out. I am going to put in the notes like things to check out. But on that note, so two questions. But first one, what would you like to plug?
Oh, plug. Um,
This is the question that
Nothing.
stumps you.
Yeah, exactly. Out of all the things, no, I mean, I guess my Instagram, because like that's where you can just sort of follow my crazy life of the film producing and band and photography stuff. Yeah, my Instagram, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, as well, I always say that if you don't know what you want to plug, you can always plug something for someone else since you've got the platform and there's something that came up and you're like, oh, check this person's stuff out, but you also don't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of like everyone because I work with so many different people, and I'm always like want to help out other friends too. I've sort of mentioned a lot of different random friends and people, but yeah, I mean, our film production company doesn't really need much plug-in. It's just that's like its own beast of PR and marketing, because it's like, and that's so cool to have because
It's
it's
dope.
like, we had a movie called Becky that just came out, with Kevin James, and that was like, to be part of stuff like that where it was like the number one movie in America for 2 weeks in a row,
What?
like that shit is crazy. And it's just like, oh yeah, we don't need promotion for or like shout outs for the production company. So good with that. Just follow my Instagram. That's fine.
All right. Cool, man. All right. So last
Yeah.
question. What scene ethics do you hold on to this day?
Scene ethics that I hold to this day is I guess for me is no matter where I go in life, no matter what I'm doing, I kind of apply the punk rock mentality to everything. Whether it's being in a band and just being like a cool person and helping people out, paying it forward, just being just doing good things, that energy will always come back to you. And I've learned that when you take that same mentality and you apply it into any field, whether it's photography and you're in a different part of the world and you're just being punk rock about things and just being humble, no matter what kind of job you're on, like if you're working for Apple or if you're working for just a small little bake shop, like just keep your ego in check. And I think that's the one thing that I've noticed throughout my years is I've been in enough industries and I've lived enough lifetimes to see people who don't keep themselves in check sort of fail in many different ways. Not saying I don't fail, of course I do, but I feel like the good things and the good energies come to me because you put it back out there for people and you pay it forward. And so I call that keeping it punk rock.